202 part 3. Who knows the name of that function? Nope, good guess. Nope. Cubic is not part of the name. Yes, who said that? Square root. It's going in the opposite direction. So cubic looks more like this, and cube root looks like this. So it has something going in both directions. The square root graph only starts here and is half the problem. 202 part 3. All right, what is the domain? Do you remember domain goes with X or Y? Remember I said alphabetical? So domain goes with, this is unit 1. We're in unit 2. X, right? So when I scan from left to right with my hand, can I go forever in both directions? X has to be what? Going that way, what's the highest I can get to on the x-axis? So my domain is X has to be less than or equal to positive 4. So now I'm going to do the same thing for the y-axis. Can I go down forever and ever and ever? Can I go up forever and ever and ever? I can go up forever and ever. But where do I start? What's the lowest y value on this whole graph? 0. I can start at 0 and then I go up from there. So y is greater than or equal to 0. Does that ring a bell at all? Okay, the parent function on this second one isn't really one we've looked at. It's just a scatter plot, right? We can't really call that a function. I'm just going to call this a scatter plot. I really should not have included this one. That's just a scatter plot of points. But the domain is a very specific set of x values. So what x values do I have here, here, here's the next value, here's the next value, here. Did I get all the points? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? So what is the first x value that I see? -2, right? So we're going to make a list. X equals -2. What else could x equal? So if I'm only looking on the x-axis, if I tick mark here, 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 and here, those are the corresponding x values on the x-axis, right? So -2. Oh, sorry, that's actually -3, isn't it? Oh, so I should have started at -3. I just read my graph. Then -2. Isn't that -3 and that's -2? Yeah, you're right. Okay. Then this is +1, +2, and +5. So I have 5 points. Each of my points refers to one x value and one y value. Domain is only the x values. So this guy's x coordinate is -3, then -2, then 1, then 2, and then 5. Do I have any points when x is 4? No. So 4 should not be in my list of the domain. Now let's see if we can do our y coordinates. So let's go in the other direction and look at our y values. What y values do I have? So if I do tick marks, I have 1 at this y value, all the way up to here. Oh, that's 1, right? Here. So I only have 4 y values total. Does that look right? -5. So y equals -5. Y could be 0, 1, or 4. So this is just reviewing. What is domain and range? The x values or the y values? Here I listed them because I just have dot, dot, dot. Here I wrote it as an inequality because every single value is included, even 1.5 or 1.003, right? Because every single section of this graph is filled in. So I can use that as an inequality. Do you think you can try the other ones on your own, or do you want to? Let's do one more together. What's the parent function of this last one? I would accept 2 different answers. If you said linear, I would be happy. I can also call this a constant function because it's just a y equals horizontal line. Let's take a stab at the domain and range. What would x have to be for the domain? So the domain is all real numbers, right? I heard someone say infinity. I'm going left as far as I want and right as far as I want. So my x values are forever. What is 3? My y value. So my range is only y equals 3. Can y be any other number? Y will always be 3, so my range is just 3. I only list one y value. Okay, you take like 2 or 3 minutes, and you might want to flip back and find your parent functions if you forget. I think you remember the names of these, though. Try those 3, yes? Yep. Can you check your answers to these 3 questions on the practice, which I don't think you did because you were out, and then returning to page 203 and taking it kind of like just a little quiz, you know, like what do you remember? Are you filling in stuff in the one? Yeah. Okay, you don't really have to. I'm not breaking that page. So unless you were using it as a review, I would try to. Yeah, but the review is not really checked off. I feel like you're just copying from someone else's. It's not really helping the review. The only thing I wanted you to do was the team test for practice. All real numbers, absolute value, and y is greater than or equal to -4. Yeah, I wouldn't do the review unless you're going to actually spend time reviewing. Take a few minutes to try those questions. And if you don't remember something, maybe I can come over and like point you in the right direction. Right? Minimums, maximums, starting points, intercepts. I don't know. Right, this page. Take that pen as a quiz. Like, would you know how to do those questions? Yeah, you might surprise yourself. But this is like another set of so let me circle for you on the graph. Am I increasing or decreasing between -1 and 0? So that's that region right there that I circled in purple. So that would be decreasing, right, for part A? And then did you select increasing for that other section between 0 and 2? So you read a graph from left to right. So I'm going down and then I'm going up. Coordinates, x-intercepts. It'd be nice if you wrote like -1, 0. What else? 2, 0 and 4, 0. And then a y-intercept would be 0, and it's at -4. Is that what you said for that one? So it can only have one y-intercept because it's a function. It has to pass the vertical line test, but it can have multiple x-intercepts. Evaluate. So you go to 3.5 and you say, what is that y value? What did you say? Did you say it was about 4? Or did you estimate 4.25? I'll just say 4. The maximum, whatever you said for part E, you should have said for part F, right? The maximum is at 4, or whatever you called this value. Minimum is -infinity because my arrows are pointing down forever. A local min. A local min is where you have a dip in the graph, like right here, but it's going lower somewhere else. So my coordinate would be 0, -4. And my local maximum, this point over here is the maximum. So this point right here would be a local max. So it's a place where there's a little peak and it changes direction. So I would have said like -1, 0 is a local maximum. And then the domain is all real numbers because the arrows are pushing outwards kind of in both directions. So all real numbers. And the range would be y has to be below this. So y is less than or equal to +4. So that's how I would write the inequality for that. So, think of those as 2 separate quiz sections. The first one is name it, find the domain and range. And the second half, I will give you a graph just like this, and I'll basically ask you those questions from another graph. So think about how much vocabulary would you need to review. So then the last thing that we need to review, this will be perfect. Then after lunch, we can do the activity. I want to look at page 205. And right before it, we did this page last time. So a lot of you struggled with the transformation rules. We definitely need to make some flashcards. So I will write that down. We need to make flashcards if we're here either Tuesday, and if not, we'll make the flashcards on Wednesday so that you have them to study for your quiz. Flashcards, transformation. transformation rules. If I have some you can use. All right, so we are going to practice the transformation rules on, these are all what type of graph? On page 205. Oh, it says it in the title, absolute value. So let's see if you can remember, before I even put this up, do you remember what this would do to a function? Inside with x, remember if that's up, right, up, down, left, right? Not up. Nope. It is either right or left. This is either up or down. How can I tell the difference? So if it is outside, it's up or down, outside the function. And if it's a plus, it's exactly what you think, it's an up. If it is inside the function, it's the opposite. It's the strange rule where everything is backwards. Because if you are at x plus 1, we talked about when you plug -1 in for x, what do you get? You get 0. So my graph is actually shifted to the left. So the plus inside is left. The plus outside is up. Does anyone remember what this does? This is either a flip over the x or y axis. If it's outside, it flips the whole function upside down. If it's inside, it takes all your x values and flips them this way. So this one would be over the x-axis. It flips it upside down. And then this is the other type of rule. Does this make it stretch or shrink? So is my graph going to look like this or like this with 2 in front? If you double your money, you get more faster, right? So this is going to stretch the graph. So there's 8 transformation rules. So there's what, like 8 parent functions, 8 transformation rules, and probably 8 graph vocabulary words. So, you know, it is kind of a big vocabulary, kind of memorizing type quiz. So that's why I want us to be here for a day before we actually do a quiz, especially warming our brain back up. All right, so let me do number 1 and 3, and then I'm going to have you try 2 and 4. My equation, it looks like all that has happened is I've shifted to the right. Right? The normal absolute value graph usually starts right at 0, 0. How am I going to shift to the right? I'm going to put a -3 inside where the x goes, because that would shift me right 3. All right, my domain is going to be all real numbers again, because it's pushing out from side to side. What would my range have to be? What's the lowest I can go? 0, right? And then I'm going above that. So y is greater than or equal to 0. Intercepts, I only have what? This is at 0, 3. And what's my x-intercept? 3, 0. And my transformation, I went to the right. 3. All right, let's do number 3. And then you see if you can write number 2 and 4. All right, number 3. Ooh, I've been stretched. Do you see how this is steeper? What's the slope of this line? Looks like up 2 over 1. So I'm going to have a slope of 2. I have been shifted what? Actually, I'm going to write stretch times 2. What else has happened? I've gone to the left 3. So I'm going to write that transformation down. And I've shifted down 2. So I've got to include 3 transformations in my one equation. Oops. So y equals, I need to put the 2 out front, because that's going to stretch me times 2. How do I go left 3? What do I put inside this to go left 3? A plus, right? Because it's opposite. Plus 3 actually goes to the left. And then to go down 2, what do I put outside? -2. So if you can do that type of problem, you've just done the hardest question on the quiz. 3 transformation rules off of 1 graph. That's as hard as it would get. Domain, all real numbers. And then what about range? My y values are all what? What's the lowest I can go? So y is greater than or equal to -2. And then I've got 3. Do I have 3 intercepts? Let's see. My 2 x-intercepts are what? -4 and -2. And how would I record my y-intercept? What would someone say my y-intercept is? Yep, 0, 4. So if you could take the last like 4 or 5 minutes and just try questions 2 and 4 so we can check them when we come back. Take a stab at them first. Don't just quit. Or before lunch. So let's see. Let's write it down and make sure we got them right. I've lost my pen. Let's see. What? Down. How far is that? 6. Down 6. That's it, right? So y equals absolute value down 6. The domain is still all real numbers. The range would be greater than or equal to -6. Intercept. Let's see. Negative. Yeah, we were going to do these before lunch. So you check your answers. No, this is not part of your resource pages. So if you didn't do it, it's just a practice problem you didn't do. But we reviewed the 3 big pieces of information, right? Parent functions with domain and range, graph vocabulary, transformation rules. So I'm going to, in your groups in a minute, you're going to do a graph transformation practice. All right, can I see what we got on this one? If you didn't get a chance to try this one yet, why don't you give me one of the transformations that has happened? There are 4 total transformations on this one. Who can give me one of the transformations that's happened? He said right 2. Okay, perfect. Right 2 is correct. How far did I go up? I went up 4. What else has happened to my graph? Is it going in the correct direction? No. So it's a flip upside down. We also call that over the x-axis. Flip upside down. And does it look like it has a slope of 1? Or does it look less steep or more steep than it normally should? Compare it to the 2 graphs in 1 and 2. Well, number 3 we said was steep. No. So number 4 is less steep, or we could call that a shrink. So now I need to write an equation that encompasses all 4 of those transformation rules. Flip upside down and less steep all goes in front of the function. What number should go in front of the function? Can you tell what the slope is? What is the slope of that line? Rise over the run. Down 1 over. Guys, do you guys forget how to find slope? Down 1 over 2. It looks like it has a slope of -1/2. So y equals -1/2 absolute value. I need to go to the right by 2. What goes inside by the opposite of that? X minus 2, because I'm inside where everything is backwards. Now on the outside, I have to go up 4. So what do I put on the outside to go up 4? That is the one that makes sense to me, +4. Domain, all real numbers. How do I write my range? Y is, what's the highest I can go? So less than or equal to +4. And this would be kind of a bonus question. I can see 2 of the intercepts. One of them, is that at 3? 0, 3. Looks like -6. Where would the other intercept have to be over here? Bonus question. These are symmetrical, right? Here's the axis of symmetry. How many units away is my x-intercept? 2 plus 6 is 8. So if I'm starting here and my other x-intercept is 8 units away in this direction, what would that coordinate be? I would use symmetry to find the other intercept. Who can tell me? Nope. 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 So the axis of symmetry is at 2, right? Cuts the graph in half. The distance from here to here, we just said was 8. The distance from here to here also has to be 8. So what does my x-intercept have to be? 10. So do you confidently say 10 now? That'd be a good bonus question, using symmetry to find an x-intercept. All right, so here's what we're going to do. Let's see. So here is so you can check your answers to number 2 and number 4 on page 205. And then we are completing page 207, but you don't have the cards printed out. So you're going to have to look at this page is what you want to fill in. And I will look and see where this is linked, but you are going to look like at this first graph. The next page gives you all the possible equations it could be. So you'd pick which equation it could be. And you need to pick which movement it is. So for example, this first graph has shifted left 4 and down 3. So we need to find which one says left 4, down 3. It would be Q. So we're going to write that the number 1 graph goes with movement Q. And then which one of these would go left 4 and down 3? It would be equation C. And then if you want to complete this, and I can check if you get them right.